They told me, son, you're special. You were born to do great things. You know what? They were right.
It's easy to dismiss the impact of older games by simply saying it was nostalgia. For a lot of the time, when we revisit the games we adored when we were younger, they seem to, well, not be as amazing as we remembered them. Though there is one game that seems to stand the test of time a hell of a lot better than the majority of FPS games. And if you've guessed it by now, you have eyes. Congratulations. I'm talking about Bioshock, of course. I don't know why or how, but this game is stuck in my consciousness for over 13 years. I mean, I can remember downloading the demo off of PSN and just playing that opening level over and over again. The atmosphere, the gunplay, the level design, all incredible. So today we're going to go back in time and see if Bioshock is truly deserving of that masterpiece title. To preface this video though, the intent is to provide a light analysis of some key components of Bioshock. Think of it as a trip down memory lane. And for those who have never played this game before, I want to share my passion for Bioshock with you. There will be some light spoilers about gameplay and location, but nothing related to story. I also chose to play the remastered version rather than the original, simply because of bug fixes for the PC release. However, it's the same experience, just with refreshed visuals. With that out of the way, let's dive in. Starting with the boring stuff, technically speaking, how does this game hold up to today's standards? I always feel it necessary to include this portion to reviews, because like I said before, sometimes those rose-tinted glasses hide a lot of the grime and grit that older games hold on to. So how does the actual platform perform in 2020? Let's talk about the engine first. On the remastered version of the game, Unreal Engine 2.5 is able to run at 144Hz without the physics engine exploding. And a lot of the bugs from the original PC port have been fixed here. Crash to desktop errors and save corruptions that plagued the original PC release have been sorted out. The game renders nicely, though albeit many of the areas in the game are quite compact, not allowing for LOS texture pop-in. I personally have never experienced any issues with the remastered version myself, but keep in mind that mileage may vary rig to rig. So your system is good, but can it run Bioshock? I mean, unless you play on your dad's work computer from the early 2000s, you're good to go. If you stuck RAM sticks into a potato and hooked your monitor up to it, you could probably still run this game at 30 FPS. I mean, the listed minimum requirement CPU for this game is the Athlon X2. Man, those were the good old days. But in all honesty, the optimization for this game is great. You can run it. Both Radeon and Nvidia optimization is good. It's an old game, so it's very unlikely you'll have any substantial issues with it. But let's get into the important stuff, the real meat of this video. What truly makes this game special: the aesthetics. This is easily my favorite part of Bioshock. Fort Frolic, Sander Cohen, the bright neon in contrast to the malignant darkness in every corner and crevice. But there's so much more. So much excellence, it's hard to display all of it. Bioshock's art style is modeled after the Art Deco movement in real life. The artists at 2K Games and Irrational took this to the absolute max though, modeling a beautiful underwater metropolis based in the 1960s. Rich architecture, neon signage, you can really tell through what's left of Rapture that this city was vibrantly alive at one point. Of course, Rapture is expanded in later games, Bioshock 2 and the Buried at Sea expansion, displaying even more of the city's grandeur. But those deserve their own videos. In generally watered down terms, the art style that Bioshock has is dark, gritty, and full of flavor. The city might be long dead and left to ruins, but there's still so much color and character. Level design follows suit with atmosphere, as it should, with notable areas being Arcadia, Fort Frolic, Hephaestus, and Apollo Square. Now that isn't to say that the rest of the locations in Bioshock are subpar or lacking. I only use those 4 examples because they are exceptional at creating a unique theme all to their own while staying true to the art style and atmosphere. Whereas some areas of the game, like Medical Pavilion, are designed well from a gameplay standpoint, they fall short visually. Each area has its own purpose. Even though I may not think Medical Pavilion is the prettiest place in Rapture, it helps set the tone of the game and allows the world to introduce its characters to the player. Like pieces of a puzzle, everything comes together to create a seamless piece of art. And honestly, I think that even today, Bioshock looks stunning. The art style makes up for its age a million times over. So the game looks amazing, but how does it play? Let's take a look at mechanics, starting with gunplay. Yeah, it's still good. The effects are punchy and guttural. They fit perfectly with the atmosphere. Each section of combat in Bioshock feels intense. The music ramps up and you're instantly met with the sounds of gunshots that break the immersive silence you were just enveloped by. Animations feel weighty and impactful. Combat is never boring in this game. There are so many different ways to approach a fight, ranging from scrapping with splicers to using all your ammo and resources to take down big daddies. Honestly, one of my favorite combat systems in any FPS game. Plasmids are just as satisfying to use as well. Almost every plasmid having a progressive path to make them more powerful or versatile. These abilities will fundamentally change how you approach every combat situation. Do you want to go in guns blazing? Take Incinerate in a shotgun. Do you want to control all the machines in an area? How about sneaking around with Electrobolt? Or maybe you just want to cause some pure chaos. Insect Swarm plus Enrage. With the base gunplay already present in Bioshock, plasmids add that extra edge to make it feel satisfying and rewarding. As opposed to an on-rail shooter, you have so many options to be creative with combat. Plasmids' combat powers are perfectly executed within the game, and are truly what make Bioshock special. I could go through and list all the plasmids in Bioshock, but we'd be here for a long time. Just know that there are a lot, more than you would ever use in any given playthrough. On top of plasmids, there are passive abilities called gene tonics. These are broken into 3 categories: combat, engineering, and physical. Each tonic has a unique attribute that can make certain builds incredibly powerful. For example, if you wanted to play the game using only the starting wrench, you could spec your combat and physical tonics to make you move faster, take more hits, and deal more damage with melee attacks. There are tons of combinations to make builds here, and allow for even more customization of the combat experience. So with all of this amazing combat, who exactly do we get to mess up with these cool guns and abilities? For the sake of simplicity, I've collected enemies into specific groups. These groups include multiple different enemy types, but I'm just going to cover the basics in order not to spoil too much. The most common enemies that you'll be fighting are splicers. These are human enemies with multiple different variants, from melee fighters to ones with bombs and guns, to splicers that will actually use plasmids on you as well. Enemies will often have multiple different variations within any given area, presenting dynamic combat sequences from instance to instance. The other major enemy group is security. These groups consist of robotic enemies like flying turrets, ground turrets, cameras, and more. If the player is attacked by security, waves of these enemies will attack the player until the security timer is lifted. Lastly, we have Big Daddies, the most difficult enemy group. These are practically mini-bosses to each area of the game. They also have many different variations, but will not be hostile to the player unless attacked. Needless to say, there are a lot of variations in fights throughout any given playthrough. And although enemy types can get repetitive on occasion, the combat more than makes up for it. Aside from aesthetics, aside from gameplay, I want to touch on one of the most impressive parts of Bioshock: the story. Now, I don't want to spoil the amazing story that's present in this game, but I do want to give some backstory and set the stage a little bit. If you know, you know, and if you don't know, play the game. You won't regret it. You start the game as a man named Jack. Unfortunately, you are a victim of a violent plane crash in which you are the only survivor. Thankfully, there's a nearby lighthouse that lets you take sanctuary. Through exploring this lighthouse, you find a bathysphere that takes you deep under the water, revealing the city of Rapture, a crippled and dying city held on to the beliefs of one madman, Andrew Ryan. Throughout the game, you will explore the city of Rapture and uncover the secrets that are hidden in plain sight. How is there a city underwater? Who are all these people trying to speak with you? How will you escape this condemned watery death trap? Trust me when I tell you, the story is worth experiencing for yourself. So to conclude with everything, is Bioshock worthy of the title masterpiece? Yes. Yes, it is. Everything in this game works. The combat feels snappy and responsive. The story is rich and intellectual. The game just looks, feels, and plays well. This remains a game that I consistently come back to no matter the year, but I honestly do think that Bioshock is a classic. I don't want to give this game a numerical value because I feel it just won't do it justice. Just know that if you have not played this game, I urge you to play it. You won't be disappointed. Support the studio that created this wonderful experience, and if you're into it, play the rest of the series. They're all just as great. But with that being said, my time here is up. If you watch this video to completion, I want to thank you sincerely for your time. I mean, honestly, it really does mean a lot that you sat down and watched this video. Seriously. Any criticism or feedback is really appreciated. This is my first video. And if you enjoy this type of content, be sure to subscribe. I plan on doing more stuff like this in the future. And until then, thank you again, my friends, and I hope to see you soon. Bye now.
I just feel like I'd like to be alone right now.